Hello, I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Lauren.
And this is I've Got Guts, a podcast about living and thriving with chronic illness. Let's be real, it is really hard.
But it doesn't have to be. You are not alone.
With this podcast, we want to create a community and a space to be able to talk about the tough stuff
And laugh along the way.
The idea for this podcast stemmed from us trying to find one for ourselves to listen to, but not being able to find anything that didn't make us more sad or frustrated.
Our goal is to talk about the hard stuff, but also talk about how to get through it, be positive, have a full and productive life, and of course, thrive.
But before we get started, just so we are clear, we are not medical professionals. We are just here sharing our personal experiences.
All right, let's get into it. Thorns and roses today.
Oh, all right.
I've got an aggressive
thorn?
An aggressive thorn, and I'm so fired up about it because it happened this morning. 490, which is a road that I travel to get to work.
Me too.
And yes, which I was sending you frantic text the other
yes.
morning. I'm like, avoid 490 at all costs.
Oh, yeah, too late. I didn't see it.
Alert. So they're doing construction and it's down to one lane and it's like a good chunk of the road. We travel every day. And I encountered it last week and it's been making me a touch late to work.
Just
a touch. 45 minutes later. No. And it's just been a really frustrating experience. So today I wake up and is snowing.
Yeah. It's April 8th, by the way.
Snowing. And I get in my car. The app is like sending me every which way. Mm-hmm. And I'm already running a touch behind. So I get in the car and I'm from Long Island. I'm used to city driving. I'm used to driving down there. I am not used to these country back roads. So I can get to work avoiding 490 and the highways. So I am like, all right, I'm going to do it today. I can do this. So I'm driving these country roads. It was so stressful, Rome. I can't, you know how I am on these country roads.
You do not do well.
And what stresses me most is just like, you just don't know, what's coming around that bend. Are you going to get stuck behind a slow guy?
Or a tractor. That's happened before.
A cow is there. Like, what is, it's so stressful. But the worst part, there's no bathrooms.
No, yeah, definitely
and
not.
That in itself sends my stomach into a wild, raging situation of knowing that there's no bathrooms. Mm-hmm. And of course, I have the urge to go. So that was my thorn today is 490 and snow. But I am it's going on for I think 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I can do anything. I can do anything.
You can go my way, though. It's not
I'm going
to
try your way. So I'm going to keep trying ways until I can figure it out. But
I believe in you.
Thank you, Roan. Thank you. The joys. What was your thorn?
Mine's a doctor-related thorn. So I got my iron infusion.
Okay.
It's been a while.
Yeah, and you've been doing pretty good, right?
I've been doing pretty good. But then I remembered today, I'm like, wait a minute. When I had that first appointment, she said that 4 weeks after my iron infusion, I would get repeat blood work to make sure that it worked. And I'm doing math in my head, and I'm like, yeah, it's been about 4 weeks. So I go to message the doctor, don't even have the doctor to message. I have a nurse practitioner. So I was like, hello, I think I'm supposed to be getting follow-up blood work. And she's like, oh yeah. Okay, good thing I remembered.
Isn't that her job?
So she's like, oh yeah, I'll put the order in. I'm like, okay, thanks. Really? Come on.
Oh my goodness.
Stay on top of things, people. This is your job.
Very frustrating, but good thing you're your biggest advocate, Rome. So.
Yes.
All right.
Thank God we got the thorns out of the way.
I know.
Let's move on to the roses.
They were super thorny. Okay, I feel like I really need to know what your rose is this week.
Mine's
you kind of left me on a cliffhanger and I don't know.
Mine is exciting. So
tell us.
After our bad news, we are moving on with another round of IVF. And so I started my cycle. And so I had to go in for my testing yesterday. Mm-hmm. And they do routine blood work and an ultrasound. Well, when my blood work popped up, I was a little surprised to see that they ran my AMH because they don't run it that often. Mm-hmm. When they last ran it in October, it was 0.49. So AMH is anti-Mullerian hormone. And it determines your ovarian reserve. Mm-hmm. Anything under 1 is considered very low.
Okay.
My AMH as of yesterday is 1.31.
Yes, bro.
So I have doubled it, and that just goes to show all the things I'm doing to reduce inflammation, all the supplements I'm taking, how well I'm eating. It has doubled my AMH.
That is incredible.
Like the acupuncture too. So like I'm in like a low AMH chat on Facebook. So I went in there today and I told them, and they were like, tell us everything that you're doing. So I was like, okay, well, here's all the supplements I'm taking, and I'm doing acupuncture, and I'm doing Reiki, and I'm eating this. And so I don't know exactly what one of the things made the difference, or if it's the combination of things, but I doubled my AMH, which means going into an egg retrieval, we have a really good chance of getting much more eggs.
Yay.
So.
Oh, this is so exciting. I have goosebumps in all the feels. This is incredible.
I know. Like, I was so excited.
Happy.
I actually called Anthony in the middle of like my work day. He's like, is everything okay? I was like, this is an in-person news, not like a text message, because it's so exciting. Like, we've been going off of like, yikes, this number's low. Like,
right. And look at all you're doing.
It's actually higher than when I got it tested back in 2022. I was at a 1.12 back then.
Okay, that is insane. I am so proud of your levels and you, Room.
Thanks. So it's exciting.
Here comes that baby. It's coming.
I know.
It's coming, right? In the order it should.
Yep. I saw a quote today that said, like, the reason this hurts so much, or the reason you want this so much, is because you already have it in the future.
Yes. And it's just like that anticipation of like, you know it's coming, and it's just like, hurry up already.
I know. Seriously.
Get this baby in me. I want to have it, so it's here.
All right. What's your rose?
All right. So my rose is my pond.
Your pond?
Yep. This is my rose today. My rose is my pond. When we bought our new house, it's right across the street from a pond, which has a ton of fish in it. And fishing reminds me of my grandpa, and it just brings me so much joy to fish. Connor loves fishing as well. Yep. He got a fishing pole from Santa Claus. And I know it snowed today, but yesterday it was really nice, and it was warmer, and the sun was out, and Connor and I just went and fished yesterday after school, before his baseball practice, before I had stuff to do. And I'm just sitting there fishing and just having a moment of, I know Grandpa's looking down on us.
Oh, he sure is.
Watching this moment. And it was just destiny for us to live in this house across from this pond so we could fish all of the time.
Now I'm going to ask the Papa Artie questions.
Okay.
What kind of fish are in this pond?
Okay. We've got bass. We've got sunfish. We've caught some juicy catfish. And I say juicy because they really are real thick and juicy. It's so gross. And those are the 3 fish we've caught so far. So Connor caught 3 so far this season. This is the second time we went out, but it brings me so much joy. It reminds me of Grandpa, and it was just such a rose.
Knowing types of fish.
Oh, Rome. This is my jam, which I kind of, after childhood and after Grandpa passed, I feel like I don't know. I kind of needed a break from fishing, but Connor's brought it back out in me, and it's been amazing. So,
Grandpa would be proud.
So proud. All right. Well, we're going to get into a really exciting interview today.
All right.
Okay, so this week we're joined by someone who has made a lasting impact on my life. Her name is Erica Ebert. I first met Erica back in 2012 when I took a yoga class at a local studio in Rochester, and I was instantly hooked. There was just something different about the way she taught. When she left that studio, I literally followed her about everywhere. And I just kept attending classes for so many years. Even when I was, you remember this room, when I was 9 months pregnant with Connor, I was like waddling my very large belly into yoga classes throughout my pregnancy too. More recently, I actually attended a training with Erica through school at Canandaigua, where I work, called Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction. And I'm just so grateful to have her here today and be able to share her wealth of knowledge.
Erica is not only an incredible yoga and meditation teacher, but she's also a certified mindfulness-based stress reduction teacher through Brown University, a former English teacher, and an expert in bringing mindfulness into schools and everyday life.
I love it.
Welcome, Erica.
Yes, thanks
Thank
for
you.
being here.
Oh my God, it's so fun. It's so fun.
I love it. How was your day? How was your day today? I know the snow was a little shocking to all of us.
I know. And it was funny because I was leading some meetings, and one of the meetings was like an inclusive welcome where it was like, spring's weather is erratic. And I made it like 2 days ago. And I was like, add like ability to prophesize to my skill set, because it was like a snowstorm. Oh my God.
It really was. It was crazy.
So wild, so wild. Well, hopefully that's the end of it.
I hope.
Fingers crossed, and warm spring weather is on the horizon. Hopefully.
I hope so.
I love it. I love it. All right, Erica. Well, take us back to 2006. What first drew you to yoga and just mindfulness meditation? What drew you into that?
Oh my gosh. So I started practicing yoga because I went through this really bad breakup. It was like a few years before 2006. And I was like, I need to do something like healthy for myself. And so one of my friends brought me to yoga. Actually, she was a counselor at Fairport High School where I was teaching at the time. Mm-hmm. And then I just kind of dabbled in meditation a little bit. But then I started getting more interested in mindfulness and meditation, and thought like, I want to bring this into like schools and add it more to my yoga classes. And so the mindfulness piece just really rose out of like realizing that I needed something science-based to bring into school systems. I couldn't just go in and be like, all right, let's like, at that time, people would have thought it was just wildly wacky to start like meditating in a class. Now it's completely normal in many, many places now. But so I found mindfulness that way, and was like, the research and the science behind it was just so incredible. And let me be honest. I basically did not almost pass biology in high school. So the fact that I'm referencing science is wild. I got a little Me Too going there. Like, I'm telling you, I could barely, like, I was lucky I could spell neuroplasticity. I don't know what it meant, but I was fascinated by the science of mindfulness. And so I just dove into it and absolutely fell in love with the practices.
I love that.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So Lauren has shared on many occasions on our podcast how she was instantly hooked after taking one of your yoga classes back in 2012. So what do you think makes your teaching style different or unique?
Before I answer that, how about 2012 and it's 2025?
Okay, you read my mind, Erica, because as I'm saying that, I'm like, my gosh, I've known you for a real long time.
13 years? Like, oh my God.
Yes, it's crazy. It's so crazy.
It is crazy.
Time
Thank
flies.
you. Yes, it does. I have been asked that often. And I feel like I hit 51. I'm like, I don't think saying why we're good at things is arrogant. I think it's like we need to celebrate the things that we know that are aligned and we're good at.
I love that.
Like I think women especially oftentimes feel like, I can't say that. I'm like, yeah, you can say that.
Yes, you can say that.
You can say that.
Celebrate it.
Yeah. So I do think the perfect storm of my teaching came originally from being a dancer and an English teacher. And so that combination of being able to be confident in front of people, in my body and in my mind and heart, right? And then I could just kind of weave in quotes from things, teach a little Shakespeare while I was doing that. I think that the sequencing and the flow and the rhythmic nature of it, but I also think the meditative piece, like bringing into it the fullness of basically class was like meditation in motion. Right? Like being able to be drawn into the body, get people out of their heads and into their bodies, get into a flow that was fun. I also play really good music in my classes. Yes, you do. I do.
And you would share your playlist with us. I'd be like, yes, give it to me.
I'm feeling kind of jealous right now that I was never part of.
It's okay. It's okay. Erica still teaches.
Okay,
we might have to go take a yoga class, because
if I could get you to come to a yoga classroom, this would make my whole world. Erica,
my God.
I got kicked out of Pilates for laughing.
Wait.
But
What? No.
Erica would never kick you out.
Would not kick you out. You have full permission to feel all the feelings. That's it too, right? Like Lauren knows that from class, being able to like bring all of yourself to it and not have to be a certain way. I think that there's a stigma around yoga that it's only for flexible people who are very serious. And apparently Pilates too, because you laughed and got kicked out. But I don't know. It was just really that music, message, movement, right? Just had that really cool community vibe to it. Always, wherever I am, yes. It's important to me.
Yes, it is. Like you're just taking me back because it's been a while. I did yoga for years, and then I got pregnant and had Connor, and mom life kind of had me just, doing yoga at home because that was what was convenient. And I literally was just, now that we're saying this, where are you right now, Erica?
I'm at Midtown.
Yeah,
Midtown.
Yeah. Oh we're going to make this happen. But it gave me, I was going through a really hard time with my health. Yeah. And that's what my doctor recommended to help regulate things for me, is doing more than just running, and that's when I looked up yoga and I found a class, and I came, and you were my first yoga class.
It's so sweet. I love it.
And it gave me a sense of just peace in a really dark time. And it served me so much. And I'm always so grateful for that. So
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. All right. So I don't want to butcher these people's names.
Want me to help you?
You've studied with some incredible teachers. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So it's Pema. Yeah. Pema Chodron was my very first teacher. And then Tara Brock and Jack Cornfield had a training as well. And then John Kabat-Zinn with Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction. But Pema's work
kind of, I was going to say, how did they all like shape your teaching and who you are, today?
Yeah, that's a great, it was cool when you sent me this to like look at it. And it was a reflection for me of like, wow, I went to a retreat when I didn't even know what I was doing in like 2006, right? With Pema Chodron. And I got there, and it was the first, like, she's a Tibetan Buddhist teacher, and she's funny. Like really funny, and just very like, practical, and she makes things understandable. She's we're just really brutally honest and like very, very real. And I loved it. It made such sense to me. And then we went into silence, and I was like, what are we doing? Like, and I was looking around, and everybody was so happy to be in silence. And I thought, what have I done? So, and we were in silence
talking,
like,
right?
I love it. We were in silence for like 2 hours. And I thought, oh my God, that's just funny now, because now I do a week of silence. But, so she really shaped my teaching and my learning by just being so human, which really resonated with me. Tara Brock is an insight meditation teacher. So the word vipassana means to like clearly see, and her teachings are around like, how do you get to this space of like, from compassion, like really seeing the truth of who you are, but from a very compassionate place, which you can imagine is important, right? Because when you start to bring awareness to like this kind of the way your mind works and I'm going to air quote, but nobody sees your issues, right? You're like, you can get really judgmental of yourself. And so she's beautiful for bringing that level of compassion, and as did Jack Cornfield. And then John Kabat-Zinn with Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction. That just became a very practical, research-based approach. So I would say that the collective of those teachers helped shape me to become who I am as a teacher.
I love that. I love that.
Well, let's talk about our gut.
Yeah.
That's why we're here.
That's why we're here.
Many of our listeners are navigating life with chronic diseases in their digestive tract. In your experience, how can mindfulness meditation and yoga support people living with chronic pain or illness?
I loved when I saw these questions because they're so thoughtful. I guess the first thing that this does is, and mindfulness-based stress reduction was created to help, to support, I don't want to say help, to support, to be in service of having people have a different relationship with their pain, right? So like understanding that pain is the sensations that, this is hard to say out loud sometimes, but like it's not always there. Like if we talk about it, it's always there. But if we really start to pay attention to, even with chronic pain, it ebbs and flows, the sensations of it. And so what mindfulness does is that it gets us in touch with our bodies and really beginning to understand that they are sensations that come and they go. And we don't have to just identify with that piece of it. I would also say that from the science background of it, from the research of it, what happens in the brain, there's a rewiring of the brain that happens. So mindfulness changes brain patterns that relate to pain perception and then emotional regulation. So over time, there can be a reduction in the intensity of the pain that has to do partially with our relationship with it and how we understand it and sense it and feel it in our body, but also the way that we interact with it as well.
It makes so much sense.
Yeah.
It does. I know it's
It
wild
really
to think about it that way.
We just did an episode on this. Like I just started doing Reiki a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And the difference it's made, I'm like, oh my God, if I would have known that I could have felt this way, I would have been doing this a long time ago.
I think that what starts to happen, and I like talking about it like a relationship, and that's John Cabot, like having a relationship with the pain in a different way, is that, in Buddhism, it talks about that you don't have to suffer. Suffering comes from this space of wishing things were different than the way that they were. And again, I get it. Like, of course, who wants chronic pain? Who wants to succumb to that? It's not that. It's like, but can you find a space of acceptance in like, this is how it is. And then how can I skillfully work with what is? Right. Yeah. And then also realizing like this idea of agency, which means like, you're not helpless. You can respond to it. There's something that you can do about it to navigate it in a way that doesn't make the pain something that has power over you.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
I love that.
Because we're in charge, right? We're in charge.
Yeah. That sounds hard to say and I'm cautionary with that always because I'm not being dismissive and it might be received as dismissive. And I personally don't have chronic pain, but I have pain in my body. I know people who do that I care for very much. And that the conversation really is more around like understanding that it doesn't have to rule the way that you walk through life. Yeah. It can be met with compassion,
I think people have to be at that point in their journey where they're ready to accept that. Because I know we are both at that point. We are ready. But I know people who aren't, who let the pain win and take over their life.
Yes.
And that's why having you on and sharing this perspective is just so powerful, for our listeners, because, I have people say it to me all the time, like, Lauren, you're always so happy. You're so upbeat. I just feel your energy. I feel your positivity. And it's real. It's there. But they're like, how? You were just in the hospital last week, or this happened, or you were just running to the bathroom 55 times, or whatever it is. And I'm like, you want to know what? Because I know that I'm so grateful to be here. I'm so grateful to have a body that I'm navigating this, but I'm grateful for it. And I've just been able, because I made peace with it, because I'm not in this constant war with my disease. I'm one with my disease. It is it is part of me. And we just like that. I love what you're saying about the relationship piece, because that's what I feel in my heart, And I think that's why I can show up in life in all aspects in that, in that space with that energy, But yeah, there are also times I totally melt down and have a moment.
Yeah.
Of course.
But I think it's that ability to release, to honor that, release it, and then pivot and shift back to directing my energy to, other spaces, or just that. I love what you said about the relationship. I feel like,
Yeah, I love that.
it's good. It's good.
You know what, Lauren, what you're talking about is something called attend and befriend. So this is cool. So
I love when we can name a strategy I'm using.
I know, right? Okay. Yeah. So there's, we all know, and I might be getting ahead of it, but let's just pull this all together. There is the flight, fight, freeze response, right? There's flight, fight, freeze, fawn. There's all these F responses. That's perfect, right? That come up. But there's also attend and befriend. So when you mentioned Tara Brach, what we'll talk about is this idea of and my hands on my heart when I'm talking, right? Like when we attend to our nervous system, when we attend to the pain that we're having, and we ask it, like, what do you need? And then befriending it is what you're describing, like putting a name on what you're doing. You're attending to the needs, you're befriending it. So you're not adversarial with yourself in this and combative, and you're creating more ease naturally in the nervous system by doing that. So it's attend and befriend is a way to work with what you're describing, pain.
Oh, I love that.
Me
I love
too.
That. That's a good strategy name.
And I love when I have a name to go with it.
Yeah.
And that was, it leads perfectly into what we were going to ask you next about, the nervous system and how mindfulness can help regulate stress responses, especially, for those in that constant state of fight or flight, like you were just saying. So it's kind of it's all connected.
It is. So the attend and befriend is like the counterpart to flight or fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And attending is turning towards something with awareness. Befriending is asking what it needs. Flight, fight, freeze, all those responses. We want that. Like, we don't want to have that. It's not going to turn off. That's our basic nature. And it helps us when we're in danger, you got to get away from danger, right? It's logical to do that. But we're not well practiced at the attend and befriend. So neuroplasticity, whatever you practice, you get stronger at. And when we're talking about this flight, fight response, there's the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system, right? And so when we're in this space of sympathetic is the flight or fight system, kicks in when there's a threat. And if you are constantly judgmental, aggressive with yourself and your illness, the stress hormone, adrenaline, cortisol gets released, and you're constantly in that chronic state. But when you step into a space of mindfulness, which brings more awareness to what's happening, it gives you the ability to respond instead of react. This is when you come into this rest and digest, the parasympathetic system, right? And so what mindfulness does is it helps ease the stress response. It brings you aware in what's happening. And you're like, oh, I know that. Like, I know that. I don't have to get crazy in my head or look something up on the internet and talk myself into that it's far worse than it actually is, right? It rewires the brain. It creates space for compassion. And it overall just brings us into an ability to be, like I said, much more responsive than reactionary.
Right?
I love that. Yeah. It makes so much sense.
It does. And it feels like it's coming from just a more like a peaceful space, you know?
Yep.
Yeah. I love that.
So how does the mindfulness-based stress reduction course differ from a typical meditation or yoga class?
Yeah. So MBSR, which is, the little acronym, like all these little acronyms.
I know, all these crazy acronyms. I remember when I saw it got released at school that we could take this.
Yes.
I go, what? That's Erica. That's my Erica. They're like, who's your? I'm like, she's not my Erica, but she.
Yes, I am. I'm yours.
I was so excited. So I'm like going around school. I'm like, everyone, this is a must. Everybody's got to do this. My principal's like, okay, Lauren is the spokesperson for this course. I'm like actually just a human who's doing it. I didn't know a lot about it before then, but.
Yeah, no, I love it. It's a systematic 8-week course. So the difference is it is mindful movements involved in it. So it's not so much yoga, but the course itself was created by John Kabat-Zinn, and it goes through really beautifully this program around building a mindfulness practice with a community. So the community aspect is very important to that. And it's 2.5 hours once a week for 8 weeks. There's a retreat that's involved in that where you get to experience some silence. The beauty of it is it's a lot of exposure to different types of mindfulness foundational practices. So, there's a body scan, which gets you involved in the body and stepping out of the mind and into the body. There's open awareness, breath-based practices of anchoring, and then really beautiful conversations around the way we perceive things and the challenges we have. So I would say the biggest difference in it is that it is systematic in the sense that there's a prescription in a beautiful way to the way that it's run. Excuse me. And also that community that comes together where you start to realize like, oh, I'm not alone in this. And there's lots of opportunities to speak, to share with each other. And Lauren, if you want to, add anything to that, but I think other people who teach MBSR might feel differently, but I think that the community aspect is one of the most profound pieces of it.
It is. And I think for me, when I took it 2 times. And the first time, I know, you know me, I'm like, if I love something, I'm like, I'm going back for more. But the first time we took it, the group that we, had together, a couple of my colleagues at school, we just have this like connection now. And every time, I don't know, after that, it just shifted my relationship with a couple of the people I work with who did the course with me. And it just was very powerful. So that is what brought me back for more. And then just connecting just in general made me feel it's just a reminder that, like you said, I'm not alone in these feelings and that other people, are right there with me. And even if our feelings were different about certain things, or even just our background knowledge and all of this was different, we were able to come together into such a respectful, loving community, safe space where we could really just be ourselves and just be open to it all. And I think that was so powerful. I do have to say the silent retreat was, I remember, I'm like, Sean, I'm going in for however many, what was it? Was it 4 hours?
It's a few hours. It's quite a few hours. Yeah.
And I'm like, babe, I'm going into a silent retreat. He like literally spit out the drink he was drinking. He's like, you're going to be silent and you're not sleeping. I'm like, I know, I'm going to be awake. But that was super powerful for me too.
Yeah.
It's something I've never done before.
Yeah. And you get to create this relationship with yourself more intimately. Right. And I love what you're saying, especially in the time that we're in now, right? Like where everything seems so dissonant and people are arguing and fighting. And so, that has a huge impact on the nervous systems of people. Whether you have chronic illness or not, like you're walking around in a state where things are just uncertain. What I like about MBSR is, and any community mindfulness-based programming is you realize like you said, this kind of quiet, like, oh, I'm not alone. There are people out there who act and live from a compassionate place, and we're putting more compassion in the world and less aggression. Right.
So
I think it's beautiful. Yeah,
me too.
We do.
Me too. So Erica, for someone who's never practiced mindfulness before or been involved in any of this, where would you recommend they start?
Not with a silent retreat. It scares me. You know what? There's some pretty amazing apps out there. And I like to guide people to apps like Insight Timer. Healthy Minds Innovations has an app. 10% Happier, which is not called 10% Happier anymore. I think it's just called Happier. There's guided meditations online. Tara Brach, you can find these guided meditations in many, many places. I think that's a good place to start because you need a teacher who can, if you can't come to MBSR, that's a beautiful place to start. But there's a wealth of knowledge on apps and online to start to sit and just understand what the practice is. Because as you know, Lauren, people think it's about I'm going to stop thinking. And no, your mind does. It's not how that works, right? So really understanding from a teacher that the way to do it, to start it, is to find an app and sit down on your cushion or whatever, on your couch, and just listen to the sound of a fan for a few moments. Even if you don't have an app, just do that. Just sit and listen to the sound of a fan. Isn't that crazy? But you have to give your mind something else to do other than just say like, oh, don't think, because we know it's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. So I would say start with an app. I think there's beautiful, beautiful options out there.
Yeah. I love just listening to the ocean,
Yes.
an Insight Timer. I'll put on, you can pick I do ocean, and it's like a strumming guitar, and I just put that on for 10, 15 minutes and just listen to it.
That's right.
And when my thoughts come in, like I just kind of focus on the ocean. And, today when it was snowing, that felt really nice.
Yeah. But you're right, because what you're doing is you're practicing giving your attention to one thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yep.
That's beautiful. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. So other than maybe downloading an app, what are some other accessible everyday mindfulness practices that people can incorporate even on their hardest days?
So there are the formal practices, right? Like body scan, like we said, like you're on the app or you're practicing this meditation, but there's also informal practices. So what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is when you're washing the dishes, just wash the dishes. Notice the feeling of the water against your hand. Like how often do we actually pay attention to what we're doing? Like,
yeah.
Right? When you're walking, know you're walking. Be present. Notice the sensations in your body. You're in the shower. What does the water feel like? What's the temperature of the air? Feel your feet on the ground. Like this stepping into the sensations of that. So, or taking a moment, putting your hand on your chest. You can feel your hand against your chest and taking 3 or 4 deep breaths in and out. Like just giving yourself that moment to pause. And to practice being where you are. I'll often say to people, just be where your feet are, right? It's not my phrase. I've heard it from somebody, but do you notice where your feet are? Can you feel your feet on the ground? Do you feel your body in the chair? Do you, it's that just stepping into a very intentional way of being in the body and paying attention to the body as you do these tasks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's such a great idea.
It is. Cause I think we're so like, go, 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 get to the next thing, do this, get there, thinking about the future, reflecting on the past, but the power is in the now, right? The power is in the present.
That's right.
I love there's that. Learning to like use your own body. Like you see so many people who can't do anything without their phone, whether it's listening to music or watching a video or scrolling through social media. It's like, put your phone down and actually pay attention to what you're doing. Even like you said, if it's something as simple as washing the dishes, like focus on that and feel all the things. I love that. Like using your senses.
Yeah. Yeah. There's this cute little story of just this guy's like hanging out with some monks and he's like, what are you doing that's different than me? And the teacher says, well, when we're eating, we know we're eating. And when we're walking, we know we're walking. And when we're talking, we know we're talking.
Yeah.
And like this difference is just being there. Multitasking isn't a thing. Task switching is what we're doing. But we've been praised for a long time being like, I can do, teachers, right? You can do all different things. Someone's tugging on you, you're on the phone, multitasking. Yeah. Like if you just do one thing, do the thing that's in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love that. That's such great advice.
It really is.
So you are a very busy woman wearing many hats, I feel like. How do you stay grounded when life gets chaotic?
So I have a daily meditation practice, and a daily yoga practice, or movement, at least walking, yoga, something like that. I prioritize self-care. And what I mean by that is I prioritize creating boundaries. I prioritize making enough time for myself to work out, being around people that I love. So I would say that maybe things that people have in the past labeled as selfish, I think it's brilliant to take care of yourself first. So I ground myself by loving myself enough to take care of myself first. And that I know keeps me able to be the human that I am in this world.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Right?
Yeah.
Because when you do that and you feel good and you do things you enjoy, you just show up in all areas of your life, in a different energy. So
yes,
I love that.
Yeah.
I do love that. So Lauren mentioned attending your classes while 9 months pregnant.
Oh my God, I remember.
My God, roll me in there.
I was like, you're back again?
Yep, still in there, overcooked, 10 days late.
What role does yoga play in connecting people to their bodies in a healing way?
So from that mindfulness place of practicing yoga, because I will say this is absolutely not a shot at all. I just want to say this, that just because you're practicing yoga doesn't mean you're being mindful, right? Like we know this. You could go into a yoga class and be so busy in your mind that you actually were never in the yoga class, right? Your body was there, but your mind wasn't. And so when you are in a yoga class and you are doing the work with the guidance of the teacher or on your own or together of connecting to the body, what I really believe that starts to do is to tune you in pretty strongly to understanding how the body feels. It helps us create boundaries. I just said that before in a different way, but boundaries in our body of like, you don't have to push so hard. You don't have to do so much, and noticing what it feels like to experience the practice from the body, not just from a mind that's constantly pushing us to do more, be more, look a certain way. I think that what yoga, I can speak to this for me. It's brought a lot of compassion as well, because as you pay attention to your body, you know the limitations and the strengths of it, and that ebbs and flows. So you don't ever come into a practice with the intention of straining, striving. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but the intention is to create so much awareness for your own body that you know what it needs on a daily basis, and you know what it needs to help you move through the world with it.
I love that. I love that so much. Gosh, and I don't love being pregnant. That just gave me talking about being 9 months pregnant just had me flashing back. Beautiful thing I did, but don't want to go back there.
Amazing.
Okay, so how can people begin to rebuild trust with their bodies when illness or pain has just made them feel so disconnected and just kind of taken over things for them?
I want to say, when I saw this question, I thought the question it's beautiful, because that like phrase of rebuilding trust with your body. Do you mind for a moment if I turn this around just to ask you,
yes, please do.
What does that mean to both of you? Like, where does the trust get lost when there is illness or pain?
For me, it's back now, but I lost my trust when I didn't have control over, I was throwing up every 20 minutes for 3 days straight. like, and I had no control over it. And then I lost control of my bowels. And like, when I just lost control over all the functions of my body, I gave up on my body completely, because I was like, I don't know what's coming. I don't know when it's coming. I don't know how long it's going to last. And I disconnected completely from my body.
And depression's
yeah, I was in a dark place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like for me, it's like very similar. You almost just feel broken, and it's just not working when it needs to work. I could get emotional when it needs to work.
Yeah.
There's situations you're in where you just want your body to work, and not like digestive wise, when I couldn't get food down and it wouldn't go down my esophagus. Like, I just wanted it to work. I wanted to trust that I could chew and swallow and it would go down without pain and just getting stuck in the worry and fear that, would I have to go to the hospital? Would it go down on its own? And then you start to just second guess everything. And then even almost your own mind of the decisions you make, should I do that surgery? Yes. Should I not? Should I go to this doctor? Should I not? And you find yourself, you lose that trust within your body, and then you start to not even trust your own decision making. You get in this spiral, right? And how do you, I found ways, right? Both of us have. Here we are.
It
took years, but some people find themselves in that. They don't trust their body anymore, and it's hard to just kind of rebuild it and get back in sync, But it has me, you have me reflecting here. It has me thinking about what you were saying about that relationship, versus being, because we went into that almost, I'm an echolalia warrior. I'm fighting it. I'm doing this.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to fight anymore.
Yep.
I wanted to have peace within my body and that healthy relationship with my disease, That was a really long answer.
No, I appreciate it. And I intentionally, I wanted to answer this question by getting curious, because I think that's the answer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I can't answer that question.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I can ask you questions that get you back into your body, and that get you curious about, how do I rebuild trust with my body? Mm-hmm. I don't know. I know how I would rebuild trust in my body, because I did. Mm-hmm. But the answer is to get curious, to reflect. And the one thing I will say, this decision fatigue has got to come. Right? Do I do it? So where I do think that mindfulness helps is when there's that rumination, you get stuck in that loop. You're just thinking, there's skills like, okay, I'm giving my attention to this thought, and I'm spinning with that. And that's okay, just give your attention to, the sound of the fan, the sound of your breath, get over here, turn towards something else. Not turn away from, turn towards something other than the rumination, to give that a wash. But I would answer that question by saying, get curious about, what do I need? Right? Tara Brach has another practice. It's called RAIN. Recognize how I feel, allow it to be there, investigate it. What do I need? What's in here? What does this hurting part of me need? And then nurture. The end is nurture is give it compassion.
Yeah, I love that.
So, my therapist, that's one of the strategies she gave me.
Yeah. Well, see, here I am, right here. Therapy and mindfulness, we've got it all.
See, this is why I said, Erica, this is the Erica.
I love you. But I think that the trust in our bodies does not come from asking other people about how to do that. I understand we need advice. I understand we get medical. I understand all of that. But I also think that in asking too much outwardly, we lose the trust inwardly.
I agree. You do. You have to find it in yourself, and you have to want it for yourself also.
Yes.
And be ready to make that change. Yeah.
You just reminded me of something that self-compassion practices. When you said you've got to want it, there's this piece around you've got to believe that you also deserve it.
Yes.
That's so the Kristen Neff It's spelled NEFF. Her self-compassion practices are incredible. And getting this, compassion, self-compassion leads to greater resilience, but also this softening and stepping into a place where you can love yourself enough to take care of yourself. You love yourself enough to know that you are worthy of that.
Yep.
You know?
So good.
Yeah.
So good. We were unpacking a lot of good stuff today. I get all the feels. I love it. All right. We're going to talk a little bit about kids and educators because we all work in that world.
Yes, we do. So you've worked extensively with students and teachers. What's one thing educators or caregivers should know about helping young people manage stress and anxiety?
Oh, how long do we have? No.
Probably not long enough.
There's this really incredible book called The Anxious Generation by Jonathan, I think it's Haidt, Haidt. I bring it up because he talks, it's about phone usage. And that is not a way to help manage stress and anxiety is by handing, a kid a phone. So that's adults too. I get there's a lot of phone issues, technology. It's not different. It's not different for adults and kids. What you do, what you don't do is use it as a behavior management strategy, right? It's not about fixing people. It's not about shifting behavior because that's bad and this is good. So when you ask pointedly, what's one thing people should know about managing stress and anxiety is that to enter into it with compassion, to know that the brains of children are more mendable, right? So there's more the neuroplasticity. The patterning in the brain, the neural pathways can be created and strengthened and changed quicker in kids because of the plasticity of the brain of children. But also, it's not something that's meant to cover up emotion. It's something that's meant to allow us to understand ourselves in a way that we can compassionately manage ourselves. And that can be done with kindergartners too, right? You do the same practices. You teach them when you feel mad, does that feel open or closed? And any little one would be closed. And over time, you're well, what happens when you feel closed? And, I'm just thinking back my fists get tight. Oh, that's you got a little indication, something that, happens. Your fists get tight and our adult fists, our shoulders get tight, our faces get tight. It really is just that when you work with kids to remember that they have so much insight and they really naturally understand how to breathe in a manner that can regulate them. They can tap into their little bodies and understand that. And then there's always trauma. There's always things that come up that, are different indicators of things that you have to work differently with that. But I guess what you should know is that it is about understanding ourselves deeper, having more compassion, and not because we're bad or need to be fixed.
Right. I love that. I love that. You have those kids. I have a student this year that came in halfway through the year from another school and came in as I'm the bad kid. I'm angry and I'm mad, and he had all of those feelings. And now we rewrote that story. We rewired those, thoughts for him. So it is so beautiful. And you forget how, like you said, in their brain, that science part of it, how things can kind of change more quickly. I think about how much my student has grown in a couple of months, right? So it's a beautiful thing working with kids. It really is. And to see and to help them discover themselves and learn things that I would have killed to know when I was a kid.
And it's powerful to see a kid recognize that you will allow them to feel feelings.
Yes.
And it's not a bad thing. my kids know that they can be in the red zone and they're not going to get in trouble.
Right.
There you go.
They've all identified strategies that help them, and they're all different. And now they know, like, and I'll say, your body's starting to show signs that you're in the red zone, and they each can identify, like, okay, I'm going to go take a break, or I'm going to get a squishy, or I'm going to take deep breaths. I'm going to count to 10. They all know what helps them feel better.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really cool to see them start to recognize the feelings in themselves and recognize what helps them feel better.
Yeah, because they're naturally present, right? I think this is kind of going into the next question probably, but it just lends it to it. Like, kids are naturally present. They might not have the language or the self-regulation, how to process it, but they're naturally present.
Right.
Right. I mean, much more than adults.
Yeah, it's so true, because that literally my question for you is going to be like, how does mindfulness show up differently in children versus adults, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's universal. Present. Like the way that it shows up, it lands, how it's practiced. That's different. How it's taught is definitely different. Languaging, depending on, the developmental piece of it. Kids have shorter attention spans. You're not going to get them to sit down and not wiggle. And that's not the point. Right.
Right.
Mindfulness for kids can give them more of the language, right? Name and notice and self-regulate emotions. Maybe they do things differently, like little belly breathing with stuffed animals or glitter jars, like those things like that. But it's not, for adults, it's a heck of a lot more rewiring. Right.
Yeah.
Like, and when, here's the thing, like adults, when you're like, adults will be like, oh, that kid can't sit still. And I'm like, we humans have a hard time sitting still when we're uncomfortable. Adults can, they might not tantrum. Sometimes they do. I pause, but what will an adult do? Walk away, shut down, not share how they feel. Like, it's not really all that different. It shows up differently. But it's not really that different.
Yeah. I love it. All right. As we start to wrap things up here, my next question for you is, let's say people are listening and they're curious about MBSR, just mindfulness in general, but maybe they're feeling a little skeptical, unsure. What would you say to them to get them? Not that we have to convince people to buy in, but if they're trying to navigate it, what would you say to them?
I think, with the internet, there's so much availability to do some practices or find a class. I would say try it, like go actually experience it, find a teacher, find a podcast, something, like start to learn about it. If you're curious, start to learn about it. If they're skeptical, be skeptical. You can be skeptical and investigate, right? Like two things can be true at once. It's okay to be that way. I would say if there's some sort of curiosity, follow it, and just find a book, find a podcast, find a teacher, download an app, just give it a try,
Yeah. I love that. And it goes back to looking within and asking yourself, what feels right? What do you need, right? What are you drawn to? Get curious.
Get curious.
Get curious. That's the
fear.
That's the takeaway from today. I like
it. Get curious.
So where can our listeners connect with you, take a class, or learn more about your work?
I have a website, and it's just ericaebert.com. And then I teach at Midtown Athletic Club. And I'm on some social media like LinkedIn and Instagram. So I'm sure you can Lauren, y'all can put that up and people can reach out to me with questions or anything like that. But
we'll put your website and all of that in our show notes so people can connect with you.
That's great.
Oh, Erica, this was just such a beautiful way to end our day.
So fun.
Listen, I am on a fertility journey right now. And so once I'm pregnant, I'm dragging her to yoga classes with me. And we're coming to see you because I want to be 9 months pregnant, waddling into your yoga class too.
Let's do it. Let's do it. I love it.
Oh my goodness. Okay, but here's the thing. Wait, I don't think we need to wait till you're pregnant to do it.
Yeah, I was just
She's going to make me start now.
We can do it.
You can do it now.
Midtown seems a little intimidating for me because it's a lot going on there. So I feel
it's a beautiful community.
Yes. I feel like I want to just like go in and experience, first aid jitters. Like it's nervous,
of course.
Nervous energy around it. So
of course.
We'll have to do it together, Room.
Yes. I would love it.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Erica. We appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to share with our listeners. You've been amazing. So thank you so much.
Thank you both so much. You're doing beautiful work, and your vulnerability is just, it's beautiful to help the community out like this. So thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
All right. Well, you have a good night, and let's all pray for spring.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
All right, my friend. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening. We really appreciate likes, follows, and reviews wherever you listen to your podcasts.
And you can find us at I've Got Guts Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. And you can email us at I'veGotGutsPodcast@gmail.com.
We'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.